Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is Tuesday, the 22nd of January 2019, and welcome Smaulgld Game Changers. Good to have you with us tonight. Tonight's topic: Game Over Game Changer. NYMEX Palladium default coming. We're going to get into that story tonight and compare it to the Comex gold and silver futures markets, as well as take a look at Palladium. Let's first take a look at our gold and silver markets. I don't have the charts tonight, but I do have the prices. And the prices today were pretty much flat, so there's no real point in looking at those charts. So it's not a bad thing that I somehow missed preparing the charts tonight. But gold was at 1283. 1284 today, silver 1531, 1532. Not much change in both of those, and therefore the gold-silver ratio staying about 83, 84 to 1. The big news was in the equity markets again. The Trump hump and the Powell put could not revive the markets today, although they tried. Two pieces of bad news hurt the markets today. There was some rumor out there that maybe they might come to a conclusion and the government shutdown or an agreement. That turned out to be fake news. And then also there was a story that perhaps the Chinese-U.S. Trade impasse might end with some meetings, and it looks like that also was either fake news or there was supposed to be a meeting with China and then the U.S. canceled that meeting. I think the United States is viewing, or Trump is looking at, that time is going to favor the U.S. in this trade impasse on the tariffs, because he just received the data from China showing that Chinese GDP reached a over 30-year low, almost 30-year low, since 1990. And therefore, they may need to revive their economy, not just through stimulus, but through some type of better trade agreement to revive their economy. So I think Trump is holding off on that. And remember, as we mentioned last night, Trump is negotiating on three fronts. He's negotiating where maybe time isn't on his side with the wall, with the Democrats, and then he's also negotiating where maybe time is on his side also as well, with the North Koreans on the nuclear proliferation. So it looks like China's now on the back burner. However, and they always come up with some reason, the market pundits, the stock market went up today because, there's always a story of the day, the stock market went down today because, the reason they're saying the stock market went down today because was that they're concerned over slowing global growth, and they can point the finger directly at China for that. Now, before we move on from gold and silver and then on to the cryptos and on to the news of the day and some other stories, and including our Comex and NYMEX default scenarios, I want to take a look also now at, well, here's a story. Speaking of game changers, this is from Peter Hugg on Kitco. Hey, 2019 is going to be a game changer. 1,500 gold may be in the cards, and that indeed would be a game changer. I didn't bother to listen to the interview. I'm sure it's full of all types of game-changing information that you don't want to miss, so there's a big alert on that. Seek that out and go find out what's going to happen and whether there's going to be a game changer in 2019. Some quick thoughts on Bitcoin. I have these discussions from time to time with people. I'm not married to my most recent iteration of my view on Bitcoin and gold, but it has evolved over at least since 2013 in looking at and analyzing both Bitcoin and gold and trying to be objective. I came up with Bitcoiners don't appreciate that Bitcoin has no value outside the blockchain. They believe in Bitcoin, and you really can't talk them out of it. And when you say it has no intrinsic value, they talk about the network. They go on. And the gold bugs don't appreciate that gold is no longer the best medium of exchange. It keeps saying it's been money for 5,000 years, period. You can divide it up. You can play with it. You can make it into all kinds of different things. But it can't be transferred as easily as Bitcoin. Also, then I got this idea, but Bitcoin is the most anti-fragile. No, Bitcoin isn't anti-fragile. Gold is. Gold is immutable. And gold just is. Once you have a gold coin, there's nothing else that has to happen for you to have it. You have it, and it's gold, and it sits there. And it's a criticism about gold. It doesn't produce dividends, doesn't produce income, but Bitcoin doesn't either. Bitcoin doesn't either. But Bitcoin is a superior medium of exchange to gold, but the idea that it's anti-fragile is nonsense. You can have a 51% attack. You've got numerous inputs. In order for your Bitcoin to be yours and for you to have it, there has to be a functioning blockchain. For gold, there doesn't have to be anything. Once it's mined, it's yours. It doesn't require anything else to happen. You don't need electricity for your gold to turn on. You don't need an internet connection, a satellite connection. You don't need miners. You need the miners to get it out of the ground, maybe, the gold. But the Bitcoin requires, for the blockchain to work and to verify the transactions, you need the miners. You got to have your storage devices. And you can have, besides 51% attacks, you can have EMPs, solar flares, satellite flares. The idea that somehow Bitcoin is a store of value and is anti-fragile, I don't buy. And again, I go back to the analogy I finally came up with. Simple analogy. When people say horses have been transportation for 5,000 years, period. Yes, that's true, they were. And then something that was faster and quicker came along. The car. Gold has been money for 5,000 years, period, they say. Yep, both of those items, I believe, are both still valuable. But horses are not valuable as transportation today. And gold, I believe, has value outside its use as money. All right, now, before we move on, I want to go through the comparison of gold and silver sales at the U.S. Mint. We got a good idea now what's going on at the U.S. Mint this year, in January. As you can see from the charts, January so far has not been a bad month. 3.9 million American Silver Eagles, 1 ounce Silver Eagles have been sold. And that's better than last year when they sold about 3.1 million. And it's better than 2010. And we're not sure where we're going to end up, but it'll probably end up over 4 for sure. We've got another, let's see. Yeah, we got the end of this week. We've got till Thursday of next week. I would imagine they might tack on another million or so. So you might get to 5 million again. That wouldn't be bad. It would put you back to where 2017 was. 2017, it's not that great of a year. It was better than 2018. But the one thing I want you to focus on in this chart, you don't have to. I want you to, but I can't make you. But you can see the chart. I think I was talking to Mark today. Yes, Mark and I did we did an interview today. It's called a social media, a net positive or a net negative. We had a long discussion. And one of the things we were talking about, and I thought I'd pull this up here, is the rise of silver as an investment. And he made some comment which made me I don't remember exactly what he said, but I think he was intimating that silver took off in 2008, 2009 in large part because of a proliferation of silver channels on YouTube. And that is pretty much correct, because if you look at the chart, not that the argument wasn't there and ready to be made, but the argument really had not been made. And if you look at the chart there, you can see silver up until 2008 was not a big seller at the U.S. Mint. It really took off, and especially took off once they had really laid out the idea that silver was a poor man's gold. The gold-silver ratio was unsustainable. Silver's been money for longer than gold. You could put silver in yoga pants. The whole litany of why silver is so useful. And then there was the whole silver is rarer than gold. It comes out of the ground. That the whole story that everyone who knows silver, who has to believe that silver is destined to skyrocket. And then when it had that big boost in 2011, people believed that another boost was imminent. And so you had heavy sales at the U.S. Mint from silver even after the market or the price had collapsed. And you can see the big years. Now, these aren't annual years. These are Januaries, but they pretty much follow. Your biggest year was not the financial crisis, 2008, 9, and 10. You can see, and that was pretty much, those numbers are pretty much directionally correct with the full year numbers. Silver didn't take off and start hitting record amounts until 2013, 14, and 15, when they sold 42, 44, and 47 million American Silver Eagles, respectively, way after the peak price of 2011. And 2015 was the low in the recent cycle for the price of silver. And now, again, people were excited that, wow, this is the most undervalued asset on the planet. You had all these channels coming out, pumping silver, telling you silver over gold, gold-silver ratio, the whole story. And by the middle of 2016, the enthusiasm on the retail side in the United States faded. Now, we had done, you can check it out, go back, look up American silver stackers versus Chinese silver stackers. And this also makes the point, Americans actually buy a lot of silver. The rest of the world doesn't. Americans buy more investment silver net than the Chinese do. I don't mean per capita, I mean in general. Which means that the Chinese don't buy very much silver per person. Now, the Chinese, as you know, they buy game-changing amounts of gold. Same with the Indians. They buy game-changing amounts of gold. Not so much silver. Investment silver in India was very sporadic, and only 1 year did they really buy a lot. That was 2015 when the price went down. The bulk of silver demand in India is for jewelry, is for silverware, and is for industry. It's not for investment. Americans love, and I give credit to the silver channels for creating this silver culture in America. I can name 10 channels that all pretty much focus on silver and the virtues of silver, and then everyone's shaking their head with all this interest. Why is silver going down? Because this is somewhat of an isolated market or crave or mania or interest in silver. It really exists on the YouTube channels in the United States. And I want to show you, now just keep this chart in mind. I don't have a split screen, but I think you can hold in your memory what you're looking at. You're seeing, starting around 2010, a big increase in what had been sales for 20 years, more than 20 years, less than 2 million, generally around less than or about 1 million. Look at some of those years. They didn't sell hardly any American Silver Eagles. Look at 1996. I think they sold, you can hardly see on the chart, like just 30,000 American Silver Eagles in January. Very few. The interest in the American Silver Eagle at one point in around 1999, prior to Y2K, they were only selling about 1.5, 2 times the amount of Silver Eagles to gold. And when gold was $200-300 an ounce and silver was $5 or $6 an ounce, so the dollar value that went into gold was far, far higher. That changed around 2015. I believe in 2015 they sold dollar for dollar about the same, which meant they were selling enormous amounts of silver. As I mentioned, 2015, U.S. Mint sold 47 million 1 ounce American Silver Eagles. Now, keep this chart in mind. You can see how it's heavily skewed towards the 2010 to 2015-16 era, right? So you've got a 5 or 6 year period where it just doesn't match the rest of the silver demand before the financial crisis. We say, well, that's because of the financial crisis. Yes and no. Now let's take a look at the gold chart. Gold chart, you can see there was a lot of interest in gold before the financial crisis, when the American Gold Eagle first came out. There was an enormous amount of interest in gold towards the turn of the century. You can see there the biggest January ever, 1999. And 2003, you had a good year. 1998 was a good year. 1991 was a really good year. Years that are comparable to the financial crisis. So yes, the financial crisis, 2009, 10, 11, you can see those are the big years, 2013. But you don't see this skew chart like we saw with silver, where all of a sudden there's this massive interest in silver. See that? Look at that interest in silver. Didn't exist before. And then, boom, channels come out. They're selling silver. They're telling you about silver. Everyone learns the silver story. Copycat channels come out. Silver this, silver that. And next thing you know, silver's a big deal. But again, that's not the case in other countries with the demand for silver. All right, I just wanted to show you that. We'll find out what happens. We'll get to the final January numbers, but you can see that off to a decent start. Not off to a blockbuster start, but certainly off to a better start than last year in both gold and silver. Now, over on the crypto side, yes, we got to talk about cryptocurrencies. And so right now, Bitcoin went up a little bit to 35.76. That's up 1.17%. Bcash 126, up 4.76%. Ethereum 118, that's up 1.88%. And Litecoin is up over 2% at 31.46. Now, a lot of these new Wall Street products that were due to come out in 2019 seem to be on hold because ETFs or backed or any of these consortium trading platforms, whatever they are, because of the government shutdown. But backed looks like it's moving forward, hiring more people in key areas and development, and that was announced today. Another thing was interesting. It ties into my theory about how the payment system and Wall Street they're really trying to integrate this whole cryptocurrency thing with the large players. Is Coinbase announced today cross-border transactions, and that is including using the SWIFT system. So non-U.S. bank accounts can now fund their Coinbase accounts in Europe and in Asia, and that enables them to fund their accounts, to buy over-the-counter from Coinbase's platform, and to trade that way. So again, this idea that somehow they're going to clamp down on, they're not. They want the money flowing. It all ends up in the same place. It converts into fiat. That's exactly what they're trying to do. I know the Bitcoin maximalists don't want to hear that. It's all about the peer-to-peer and outside of the banks and be your own bank, and it's going to crush central banking. Well, the banking powers, some of them are totally against it, but others and other Wall Street players, big financial players, are trying to get, and with the aid of government, are trying to get a lot of the Bitcoin, a lot of all the other cryptocurrencies somehow folded into the financial system. So you've got SWIFT transactions going back and forth. You've got government-sponsored exchanges like Comex and CBOE and around the world trading futures. And of course, Bakkt is also designed to trade futures, and that is sponsored by the owner of the New York Stock Exchange, the company called ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, and that also is a consortium which consists of Boston Consulting, Microsoft, and then Starbucks. And Starbucks is in that consortium with Intercontinental Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange and Boston Consulting and Microsoft, because they're there to help do the fiat conversion. They want people to, when they take their physically delivered Bitcoin futures, to then have a way to spend them. Now, they'll also store them for you. They'll trade them, all the stuff regulated, but then they'll help you spend them. And why do they want to help you spend them? Because helping you spend them and running them through payment processors is all trackable and traceable, and it's cheaper than the current credit card fees. So lots of money involved in that. People are saying it's a fraud, it's a Ponzi scheme. In a Ponzi scheme, you don't have full regulation of all of these. You don't specifically store and arrange for government-regulated storage, trading platforms, and payment processors for a Ponzi scheme. It's kind of ridiculous when people keep saying it's a Ponzi scheme. It's not. It's all above board. When they regulate it, when they agree to all this regulation, they know exactly what they're regulating. You may not like Bitcoin. You may think it's a scam. It doesn't matter. There's plenty of big money coming in behind it, and it's all being regulated. Now, the Bitcoin people don't like that either. Not because they think Bitcoin's a scam. They think Bitcoin is the second coming. but they don't like the idea that it's going to be corralled by these bad government actors and so on. Here's another one. I mentioned New York Stock Exchange is getting involved in Bitcoin in a big way. Well, look at this woman here. She runs NASDAQ. NASDAQ CEO, crypto could still become a global currency of the future. They're looking, I think they're working with, I think it's TD, not TD Ameritrade, one of the large ETF companies to create a pricing system. I think they're even going to have futures as well on NASDAQ. And Fidelity's coming out with a trading platform for cryptocurrencies. TD Ameritrade, I mentioned. So here you go. This woman runs NASDAQ. You can't get more Wall Street, more establishment than the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ all engaged in big crypto Bitcoin projects. So when people tell me it's a Ponzi scheme, I have to say, okay, it's a Ponzi scheme. But, you know, if it's a Ponzi scheme, it's a legal Ponzi scheme. It's 100% legal, and it's sanctioned by this. Now, in other news today, I found this one amusing. And I don't like to spend a lot of time on this because I believe that these media stories is really all they are. I mentioned last night a lot happened today, and then I said, no, a lot didn't happen. There were a lot of media stories, and the big media story for the last weekend was this non-event where everyone got outraged over something or on some side or another. You either thought someone did something wrong and it got you pissed off, and then you got pissed off, that people got pissed off, and it goes back and forth. But the latest thing is that they're complaining now that the kids that were with the MAGA hats, the Catholic school, who, by the way, may be at the White House tomorrow. That's going to annoy a lot of people, I'm sure. That gasp. These kids are hiring a PR firm in connection with this whole incident. Now, it's not like they went to Washington, D.C. to engage in this type of... They didn't go down there to harass Native Americans at the indigenous parade or wherever they're having. They certainly didn't go there to find and to seek out the black Israelites as well. They were waiting for the bus. This wasn't premeditated. So the fact that they have a PR firm is only a result of the fact that they were thrust officiously into the spotlight by the media. So they're saying the Louisville PR firm played a key role. No, they didn't play a key role. They're actually only necessary because the media played the key role in creating the controversy. I really think that it's terrible that anyone has to spend any time thinking about it. But the reason you have to think about it is this is what gets thrust in your face. This is somewhat what led to the conversation that I had with Mark today on whether social media is a good or a bad thing. Because in this instance, this is something that really wasn't an issue. I think no one got hurt. No one was afraid. People were just standing around. Guy banging a drum. He came up to him, and then he claims he couldn't get out. Well, he walks into a crowd. These kids, they may be morons. They may be 15-year-old idiots, but they weren't threatening him. And the idea that this is something that everybody has to talk about really is ridiculous. But there it is. Everyone's talking about it. All right, what else happened today? We did gold. We did cryptos. We did Covington. All right, well, it sounds like now we are... Oh, no. I want to move on. A couple of things. Now, I like to show the dogs in their mugs. And, I don't really like those knockoff mugs that our friend Roger in Australia has, where he's created his own mug. But he sent me a picture of his mug, and he even did a video about his mug and the robots. I encourage you to take a look at that, but don't buy any of those knockoff mugs. But he wanted to show me a picture of his son's dog with the mug. And I thought, okay, I'll show the picture of the dog. But wouldn't you know it, just like the mug, the dog is also a fake knockoff. So there you go. It's cute. I mean, I'm not against it. It's called Dougie. Dougie, D-U-G-G-E. It's a Huggy Dougie. And but it's not a real dog. And nor is that a real Smaulgld mug. So you have to keep all these things in perspective. Now, the other thing is, before we move on, and I'm going to play the music that I know that Scott likes to hear, the uh-oh, we got a moron here music. But before we do that, I have some links for you, because if you are interested in, remember, I don't do Google AdWords, Google AdSense, wherever that stuff is. So I try to fund the site based on shilling mugs. And also, if you are interested in gold and silver, I pump that too here, not investment advice. But if you're interested in buying gold or silver, if you visit these links, you pay no more, no less than if you visited them directly. And I have 3 different bullion dealers. You can compare pricing and shipping. Here's the first one. That's SD Bullion. And SD Bullion has a fine service. And that is for comparing American Gold Eagles. There's Golden Eagle coin. I'm going to give you that one. This is your ad that's coming up right now. So you don't have to click ahead of it. You can just stay here. You can look at that nice looking dog there and hope that maybe I show Lucky, the Doberman, or Buddy, some other dog. But there's Golden Eagle coin. They also sell Gold Eagle coins, game-changing Gold Eagle coins, or Money Metals Exchange. They all have good shipping, good pricing, and you could check those out. Actually, these are not going to come out, but that's all right. I'm only going to give you, hold on, let me give you the, those links didn't come out because they only like the ones that are Google approved, but I did convert them, and here we go. Here's Money Metals Exchange. Give you that one. Next time I'll know to type this one out for you. Money Metals Exchange. And then I'll give you Golden Eagle coin, which didn't go through, but that one's going to go through. Also, Golden Eagle coin has those 999 fine silver, Litecoin, and Bitcoin, and Ethereum, and all different cryptocurrencies, which I think is pretty cool. In a silver, actual silver round 1 ounce. So I'll give you the link for that. Anyway, these links should work for gold and silver. You just have to poke around on the site. But again, you compare pricing and shipping, and Smaulgld makes a small commission, so you can help the site out that way. Again, not investment advice. I'm not saying go out and buy gold or silver because the Comex is going to default. But they go good in your mugs. You know, you can put them in there, and there you go. All right, there's Dougie. We're going to have to move away from him now and move on to our charts now for Comex. First, we're going to start with the whole concept of the Comex default, and they usually talk about the Comex default in terms of gold or silver. And that story is one of the classic pumper stories. It's been around for 15 years. They keep recycling it. But the reason they don't do that one anymore is because, I mean, how many times are you going to cry wolf? But there's so much silver now. And because it also doesn't jibe with the whole idea that JP Morgan supposedly has all the silver. If JP Morgan also has a lot of silver in the Comex vaults, then how's Comex going to default if JP Morgan has a lot of silver in there? But there you can see the amount of silver that's in the Comex vaults. And I'm also going to leave you with give you and leave you with this link. I'm not going to go through all the points in it, but I did a long, extensive blog post and YouTube about why Comex won't default after I saw Bill Holter give a presentation on Greg Hunter about 4 years ago saying why it was imminent, and I sent it to Greg, and he said, it's not one of your better pieces of work. And I thought, okay, well, call me when the Comex defaults. And, of course, it didn't, but then 2 years later, he was back with Comex default, and you know, we'll probably hear Comex default soon as a threat. But we are going to look at the differences between, here's the link I was telling you about. Here you go. There's the link, why Comex won't default. Let me just make sure that works. And it's redirecting, and let's see if that link works. I hope all, yep, there you go. So you can click on that, just open it up. Leave it open for after the show. You can read it. You can look at the video that's in there. It is all you need to know about why Comex won't default. So next time, why Comex default is the same as game over and game changer. When someone's telling you that Comex is going to default, If someone wrote to me, your antenna should go up, just like when someone says something's going to be a game changer or game over. It's not going to happen. You can figure out there, and you can read it, and you can disagree with it if you want, but it's based on a full analysis of why Comex will not default. And I even use It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, it's not like I got the money in the safe. We go, Mary, with, what's his name? Jimmy Stewart. Oh, okay. That's there for your look at, and let us now take a look at the topic of the evening, and we're going to play our friend Scott's favorite part of the show. And normally what he does is he tells me at what point in the show we finally get around to this stage of the show, which is when we play, uh-oh, we got a moron here. So I think we're just about ready for that. I'm trying to delay it just a bit because I'm trying to work out an average of when I play this. Last night it was so early. He was very disappointed. And then some nights what I do is I will play it. I'll play it twice. But I think today, I think this is the only time you're going to hear it. So here we go. Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Yeah, I'm missing Bernie Sanders. I got to hear from him again.
We're going to look at the Comex default. All the rich people got their money into the Comex, and then it's going to default, and it's going to be game over. That'll be a real game changer.
All right. Comex Depository Warehouse Silver Stocks. You're seeing here a prodigious amount of silver stuffed in those vaults. I get this all the time. You don't really believe all that silver is there? Yeah, I do. Why wouldn't I? I mean, these are the same people that want to believe nonsense like JP Morgan has 800 million ounces because they're stacking, because they know what's coming. But then they don't want to believe that there's 149 million ounces in the JP Morgan vault where there's no evidence that it's even theirs. But that's not the point. They want to believe silver is where they want it to believe it is, but they don't want to believe when someone shows them that there's silver here. There's no silver there. Okay. They just make these numbers up every day. That's right. It's all a conspiracy. But in any event, this is the issue. Now, what they try to do when they try to make up this Comex default nonsense is they try to explain to you that there's no silver, there's no gold, or whatever it is at the Comex. They don't dispute that these numbers are fake. They say, well, yeah, there's silver there, but it's eligible, but it's not registered. And if somebody wanted to stand for delivery, it wouldn't be there, which is complete and utter bollocks, as they say in England, because the traders there are there to trade for the price. There's a delivery option, and as you can see, if someone wanted silver, they could get it. And again, if somebody really, 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 really had to have silver, and they needed their 10,000 ounces or whatever they wanted, they could go out and buy it. And if somehow Comex wouldn't give it to them, because somehow all the silver that was eligible to be traded. Now remember, if somebody has the silver in the Comex warehouse and it's eligible to be traded, it's because they want to trade it. It's not because they want to hold on to it and make sure that they're going to hold on to it, and when someone stands for delivery, they're not going to give it up. That's just stupidity. They're there to make money. Everyone's there to make fiat profits. They're not there to crush the Comex or other fantasies that these people have. So, most of the silver may not be necessarily registered to be delivered, but it's eligible. But if it comes a point where they run out of eligible, they can quickly register registered silver. They can quickly register the eligible, and to be eligible, it has to be in specific form. It has to be in these 1,000 ounce bars and 9995, and this isn't even all the silver that is in the depositories. Like for example, the Brinks depository, they'll stack monster boxes of silver eagle. I'm sure they got plenty of them in there, but that's not eligible to be traded on Comex. So what you see in all these numbers in the Comex vaults are the amounts of silver that's eligible to be traded. And there is total stocks right now at the Comex nearly 300 million ounces. That is a lot of silver. Now, what does that mean in 300 million ounces? As we mentioned, some is eligible, some isn't, but there's plenty of registered silver there as well. But one of the things that Nick Laird does is he's the guy who produces these charts. He takes the amount of contracts that are outstanding, and he figures how, that are trading on the COMEX, and figures out how much silver would be required to be behind and satisfy those contracts. And then he looks at how many ounces are actually in the warehouse, and he figures out what he calls owners per ounce. So these people really aren't owners per ounce, but it's a nice way of expressing it. People understand the point. Well, if you take all of the silver, registered and eligible, owners per ounce currently at the COMEX is 3.2 to 1. That's better than the amount of cash that's at your bank. And your bank is probably far more likely to, quote, default. When you go to the bank, let's say you and 10 of your buddies go to your local bank and each have like 50 grand. I guarantee you can cause that bank to default and not be able to give you your cash. Will that mean the bank closes? No. It just means they're going to take your name down and ask, what do you want $50,000 each for? Are you guys terrorists? They're not going to like close the bank and say it's game over and game changer. You pull that stunt, they're going to throw you out of the bank, tell you to come back in 3 weeks. That's all that's going to happen. Someone tries to stand for delivery for silver that they don't happen to have at the time, they'll settle you in cash. Or if you insist and you want to make a stink, they'll kick you off the platform. You're not going to collapse the COMEX. You're going to stand for delivery. No, you're going to get satisfied because, by the way, if that's your game, then what are you doing? Do you want the silver or do you want the fiat value? I want my metal. Okay, they give you the money. There's no shortage of silver. You can go out and buy silver. Let's say you're up 20 grand. They give you the 20, whatever amount of money you're supposed to get from your contract, and you want to take it in silver, and they say no. Not that there's a risk of that right now. Doesn't look like that. They'll give you the money. You can go buy it. No, you're going to stand for delivery. Then they're going to tell you to get lost, and you're going to insist, and you're going to bring a lawsuit, and then you're going to lose the lawsuit. What have you gained by doing that? And you're still not. And you can still, and the court's going to say, give him the money so he can go buy his silver. It doesn't make any sense when they keep going on and on and on. Well, I know why they do it, because they think you're going to run out and buy silver. It just sounds like a great story. So that's the silver story. Right now, this is not a problem. This is not a risk. And let's take a look at the situation over with gold. Gold, there's about 250 tons of the shiny yellow stuff at the COMEX. Game over, game changer. China's gonna stand for delivery, or some BS like that. China, yeah, they're gonna come over, and that's what China's number one goal is as a nation is to crush the COMEX and take revenge. And people believe this stuff. No, they're not concerned about 300 million people that may not have jobs because they screw up the economy. No, what they want to do is they want to roll their gold out into a stadium and then stand for delivery on COMEX. It's ridiculous. But in any event, if anyone knows what 8.97 million ounces is, oh, but it's not all registered to trade. Okay, what do you think it's there for? You think it's there as some type of scheme to make sure that it's not delivered when China comes calling? I mean, you can believe that stuff if you want, but and apparently many people do, and they love to go from channel to channel hearing this kind of stuff. But look, there's 9 million ounces. That is 250 tons. You know what 250 tons is? That's about as much gold as the Bank of England has. England has 310 tons. That's as much gold as that mega merger between Newmont Mining and Goldcorp that we talked about the other day annually produce. That's a lot of gold too. There's no shortage of gold. And what does that do for owners per ounce? Let's take a look. Owners per ounce of gold, thanks to Nick Laird. Where did it go? I guess it's this one. Uh-oh. Oh no, 5.6. Again, I guarantee you there's less fewer physical dollars available at your bank to cash you out than there is gold or silver at the COMEX. And is it game over for the banks? You can make a bigger argument for the banks. But what's the problem with the game over for the banks? They can print up more dollars. They may not be able to give you the... In fact, I know for a fact that the amount of physical dollars in the world, I saw this the other day, the Federal Reserve produces it every now and then. They estimate there's $2 trillion in physical bills. That's it. And there's like 50, 80, whatever in deposits. It's a ridiculous amount of dollars that are available in digital form. And as far as cash goes, 66 to 70% they say is overseas. So there's more dollars, physical bills, overseas in places like Argentina, Venezuela, in Italy, in Russia, in China. There's just dollars all over the world, physical dollars. Very few in the United States. Why? Because people transact less in cash and more in digital dollars. But again, here's your gold. Plenty of gold there, 240, 250 tons. Not going to be game over, game changer anytime soon there for gold or silver. And by the way, if you did try that, as I mentioned, and you go through that article, I gave you the link. I go through all the rules, what Comex will do to you if you try to stand for delivery or in any way try to crush the Comex or make it collapse. You're gone and you'll be investigated, as Chuck Schumer says, 6 ways to sundown. You're not going to get away with crushing the Comex. All right, now let's move on to platinum and palladium. The little difference in platinum and palladium. First of all, gold and silver trade on what's called the Comex. These other metals trade on the NYMEX. They're the same concept. One's in New York, one's in Chicago. They're both owned by the same company, the CME group. So, okay. Now, platinum, by the way, is mined 10 times less than gold. So every year they may mine 3,400 tons of gold. They'll mine like 200 tons of platinum. Really, really very little platinum being mined. It's mined mostly in South Africa and Russia. Palladium is pretty much the same. Pretty much 180 to 200 tons a year. Not much. It's more skewed towards Russia, but it's the same thing. Russia, China, Zimbabwe. And of course, people trade platinum and palladium less. And the desirability of holding platinum and palladium is far less than the desirability of holding gold. It's probably about... And silver, by the way, is not as desired to hold because of the storage fees. You're talking about people holding on to the equivalent dollar amount of gold and having it in a COMEX-approved vault to trade, like the JP Morgan vault or the Brinks vault. It's going to cost you a lot more money to store the equivalent dollar amount of silver. Why? The gold-silver ratio that is unsustainable is 83 to 1. Well, it means it's going to take up 83 times more space in their precious vault. Who puts gold and silver in a vault? People who have a lot of money. People are stacking silver eagles in their basement or in their garage. Okay, and I think that's missed on people. Well, they're just stupid. Yeah, they're stupid rich people who have millions of dollars worth of metals in vaults. Well, what if someone... Okay. Anyway. Now, the platinum people don't want, because there is something about gold where rich people will store in vaults around the world gold. They don't generally do the platinum palladium. The reason is, if you have one of those kilo bars, I'd love to see one of those. Use as a door. I know. I'd love to have it. They're nice. They're better than the bars that they trade on the Comex, which are like 100 ounce bars. But they have these little kilo bars. I think they're 32 ounces. Chinese like them. Very expensive. I mean, 32. It's like 50 grand. That is something that internationally, if you're running around as an international man of mystery or woman of mystery, you can get rid of that. There's always someone who's going to buy gold. Not sure if you had palladium and platinum, you can get rid of as easily. So the people who are trading palladium and platinum, they're not looking to take delivery. You can't trust that. So if you are a trader, a platinum trader, palladium trader, I even know gold traders. I saw on, I think it was the World Gold Council, I saw an interview. She was saying, yeah, we've had people here who have been trading gold for 30 years. She had a gold bar with her, and she says the person had never even seen a gold bar. These people are not collectors. They're not stackers. They're there to make big fiat profits. So any event, but you can see why somebody would want to take delivery of gold more than palladium, because it's just, historically, it's not what people save. But you can see here with platinum, there's not much platinum there. I mean, there's million ounces. It's a lot. It's relatively a decent amount of platinum. But it's not a lot. But then again, there's not that much demand for platinum as a trading thing. So there's sufficient platinum there. And if you really have to have platinum because you are a manufacturer, you probably don't want to depend on just your only source is standing for delivery, although you can do it for platinum there. Now let's look at the platinum owners per ounce. It's relatively high. It's 24 to 1. So that means that there's not a lot of room for people who are buying the contracts and they want to stand for delivery. It's much higher, you see, than the gold or the silver. Could be a problem. Again, it's not going to collapse. All they would do is stop trading on it wouldn't be a big deal. It's not going to change anything. It just means that if you want to buy platinum and you want to take delivery of platinum, NYMEX is not the place to get it if they run out. I mean, that's all it really means. It doesn't mean there's a platinum shortage or a gold shortage or a silver shortage because you can't get gold or silver or platinum at the Comex. Although it may indicate the why isn't there enough gold and silver on hand at those? And part of it could just be mismanagement, doesn't matter. But we know that if you can't get your gold or silver from the Comex, not that I've heard of that, there's plenty of places you can go and get it. Now, it may be the case that platinum, they could be stretching it. I'm not sure. But the real issue is, and I was joking about this with James Henry Anderson on that Silver Doctors interview I did last week. We were talking about how little palladium, though, check this out, is in the Comex vaults. Now that, there's 42,000 ounces. That is not much palladium at all. You know, there's 1 million plus ounces of platinum. They're both about the same relative rarity. But 42,647,000 ounces times, $1,300, it's $55,000 worth of palladium in the depository there. Now that is, someone actually could, without really, I mean, it's such a small amount, you could stand for delivery. I think he was joking. He was James Henry Anderson saying, you know, we can get like a few people together and we'll stand for delivery. He was talking about in Japan where they have the same issues, very small amounts, and see what happens. Let's look at the owners per ounce of palladium. It's 64. Now the trading isn't very heavy, obviously, in platinum and palladium as it is in gold and silver, but still. But again, it's not going to, this idea that if somehow the NYMEX or the Comex doesn't have the silver or gold is going to change anything, it's not. In fact, you only have to go back to 1980 when exactly that happened. The Hunts brothers, they kept standing for delivery, and then finally the Comex realized that these guys had the ability to take them down, so what'd they do? They took the whole thing down. They took down the Hunts brothers. They said, oh, from now on the Comex, all you can do is sell. What do you think happens to the price when all you can do on Comex is open up positions and sell? Price goes down. What did that mean? It meant that the collateral the Hunts brothers had was worth less, and then they had a margin call, and they had to pay, and down went the Hunts brothers, and then you would think, well, Comex essentially defaulted. No, that's when all that happened was silver went down to $5 an ounce and stayed there pretty much till 2006, 2007. So these trading platforms have ways, as Chuck Schumer says, 6 ways to Sunday or 6 ways to sundown, to shut you down. And they will. And it's not like, oh, now it's all exposed. No, what they do is they demonize the people who do the standing for delivery, the people who try to screw up the what they think is the normal flow. Now, again, I'm not I'm not, what's the word, condoning how they conduct these operations. Oh, you're a shill. No, I just know that they're not going to allow somebody, just because somebody wants to fantasize about higher gold and silver prices because someone's standing for delivery, they're going to expose the fraud. It's not going to happen. There's ways of avoiding that from happening, and all they do is they'll make a scapegoat out of somebody who is trying to do that. And really, no one has any incentive to do that. You got all these people, oh, stand for delivery. Everybody should stand for delivery. Okay, you do that. And you put your money up, and you go out, and let's say you're lucky enough to have 10 million, 20, whatever amount of money it is, you're willing to lose it to prove a point. Go ahead and see if you stand for delivery for something that doesn't exist. Who's the moron? You're not going to, if they don't have anything to give you, and you know they can't give it to you, nothing's going to change. The price isn't going to go higher because they've defaulted, because you've asked for something that they can't give you. Not that that's the case, but if that were the case, and they just decided they would just give you your money, you said, no, I have to have the metal. And then you're going to waste your time suing, go to court, and the court's going to say, it's fungible with money, that's why you're there trading. Here, take your money. And they can write a check for you. They have the money for it. They just didn't have the physical metal at the time. Who's stupid enough to go through that rigmarole? Because you're not going to get anything out of it anyway. And that's another reason why it hasn't happened. I believe someone asked Sprott, Eric Sprott, smart man, rich man, why don't you do it? He said something like, I'm not going to, how would I gain from doing that? So when you hear those stories, Comex default, think of it the same way as game over and game changer. Let's see what the Smaulgld game changer is saying in the comments over here now. Let me put up now the pitch for the donations and the Bitcoin and the Litecoin and the mug sales. There you go. You know what to do. That is all you need to know. There's the Patreon, there's the PayPal, there's the place to send checks, Bitcoin, Litecoin, buy your mugs, and let's check out your comments. That is all you need to know. Right. Pablo Pina. The background reminds me of the Atari game Asteroids. Yeah, it kind of does. It's a game over, though, that's for sure. Golden Banjer is here. Hello, Golden Banjer. I like when Salivate Metal calls people out. Hello, Golden Banjer. Good to have you. Welcome to the Salivation Nation. A multitude of gratitude. All right. Seth Shepard is here, waving. And Trace Young, have you seen Mike Baloney's latest video? Pretty jaw-dropping. Now, I've given up on Mike. The time when he called me out in the comments, when I told him the gold back yuan story is complete rubbish, he's like, and this guy here in the comments, this Smaulgld, says that the story about the gold back yuan doesn't have a source. You want sources? I'll give you sources. And then he cites 3 articles with no source. And again, that story, I give David Morgan credit. He called me on that. We talked about it. He realized that there was no gold back yuan. There was no game changer. And he went on, I think it was Reluctant Preppers, and he explained. He says, this is going to make me popular, but he says, I've looked into it. I fell for the story too. There is no gold back yuan game changers. So again, just because somebody's wrong once doesn't mean you write them off and you don't look at their work. But I got other things to look at than hidden secrets of nonsense. All right. Game changers. Always food for thought. Why I'm buying silver today? Because you sell the stuff. That's why you're buying it. You've been buying it for 10 years. Okay. Hi-Ho Silver is here. Hello. Got to be patient. Even Pablo said. All right. What else have we got? Seth is here. Seth is here. Pablo's here. Andrew is here. Everyone's here. At the Salivation Nation. We should have bought Palladium. Who knew? Exactly. You got to start a Palladium channel. We could not lead our lives without Palladium. Palladium is one of the most useful elements on the periodic table. We believe it will go extinct. There is no Palladium in the Grand Canyon. All right. Let's see what else we got. Tossing Molotovs. The U.S. has a history of silver. There's basis for these pumpers. Yeah, but remember tossing Molotov. Silver has always been, if you know your history, not only pocket change, but has been thrust officiously upon. That's why they had the bimetallic standard. The Democrats always liked silver. The real money people liked gold. They thought gold was a store of value, and they knew silver wasn't, and it was inflationary. So always try to throw that into the monetary system. But you're right. Can't imagine silver-backed currency ever coming back. Actually, a backed currency is much more likely than people actually using. I don't think people will use physical specie absent even a financial crisis. You'd have to have, the grid would have to go down. You'd have to have no electricity. You'd have to have no digital world at all to go back to transacting hand to hand with coins and silver. That's the cashless society, and that's got nothing to do with gold and silver. Part of that has to do with just convenience, but I could see them backing currencies with the blockchain and putting gold and putting silver and oil, and they can do that, and I think that makes sense. But actually making coins again and handing them out of real value, I don't see that happening. You guys are all freezing. You're freezing, you say. Check out Gold Silver blog, why I'm buying. No. You know what, Trace? That link you have there, it's not showing up because YouTube doesn't allow links. But I don't want to give him the publicity. He doesn't pump my channel. I don't go on his channel and put my links on there, so I'm not going to have his links here. Game changer. Why I'm buying silver. All right. Let's see. Don't forget to like, Suzanne. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I got to get Salivate Metal back on this program. We had a good time when he was on here. All right. Let's see. What else do we got? Are you using a mug? Mugs. That haircut screams alcoholic. Whose haircut? Starting to think this is a Dogecoin pumping channel now. I love Doge. I love that little Shiba Inu dog. Very cute, whatever they're called. Oh, Crypto Shrugged Off. Are you still here? Doesn't look like he is. Amazing cup. You put silver in a cup and recharge the scan code to make a purchase. Oh, you're talking about Roger's cup. Taylor Collins, another great episode. Platinum keeps going down. Yeah. You know, ASMR people, he works in some industry. I don't know what it is, but he explained to me that palladium and platinum are not interchangeable. I thought that they kind of were, and that it didn't make sense to me that palladium was rising and platinum wasn't. I think what he said was platinum is used in the diesel catalytic converters, and because those cars are going down because of the electrical, but palladium has other uses. They're both rare, but they're not going up in the same way. Yeah. I haven't listened to Greg for a long time either, Andrew, Greg Hunter. I think his best show is when he does his weekend wrap-up. I like his weekend wrap-up. What else? You guys are all talking about the weather. This is the Weather Channel, the Smaulgld Weather Channel. Roger, can't wait to see Lewis roast David Morgan in the debate. I don't think that's going to happen because I think I've spoken to David before. And again, I have to give him credit. When the Goldback Yuan story came out, I was the only one saying it was complete BS. And he called to me and he says, what's going on with this? And I explained. There is no release from China. I explained why it would make no sense for them to do it anyway. And then I sent him all my documents that I was looking at. I gave him all my rationale, and he researched it on his own. And he actually came out and he said, you know, I did a video on this explaining what was going to happen, why it was a game changer, and he took it back. Which shows he's reasonable. And I also know that I believe, I've seen work by him that he doesn't, he believes, I think, in silver on the blockchain and kind of stuff, which would lead me to believe that he doesn't really believe that silver is going to be like handed around like currency again. He may, in which case I'll have to roast him if he thinks that, but I don't think he thinks that. How do you feel about coal? I think it'd be an interesting discussion, and Kennedy Financial, he's very good with, he'll moderate it, so I think it'll be a good time. I hope it'll be instructive rather than contentious. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be interesting, though. How do you feel about cobalt used in batteries? Only one legal mine, North America. Next one is in Congo. Yeah, I know. That's lithium, all that for the batteries. Very important. I know China's down there trying to get the Congo cobalt. I looked into it a year or two, too. I've never looked into it enough to figure out how to invest in it, though. Seth Shepard, only gold has a chance. Silver will be completely industrial. Although David Morgan's probably the nicest from the bunch. Yeah, well, I don't have any personal issue with any of these people. It's just I think when Mike he called me out. He then proceeded, if you were paying attention, to act like he had shown me by pointing to articles that were just that circular kind of rationale. One story comes out that has no sources, and then two other stories cite the same story that doesn't have a source. That's kind of like what the FBI did with the Steele dossier. They leak it, it goes into the press, and they go, see, it's in the press too. What else do we got here? Still a lot of weather talk. I guess you guys are cold. All right. Cedar Rapids is a city. Yeah. Kilo's a lot of gold. All right. Well, looks like you guys are having a good time. I should just open this up and let you guys talk to each other. A lot of off-topic stuff here. All right. Rolling down. Crypto bubble, Lewis said yes. They want something out of it. I mean, they want the Wall Street, all this big money isn't pouring in there. They're not creating stable coins because they expect this stuff to go away. They expect there to be a lot of, what's the word? Trading and storing of these digital assets. So, Lewis, can you do the debate at 9 p.m. Aussie time, maybe 4 a.m. your time? Yeah, anything to accommodate Roger. And can you I don't know. I think the thing is, what is it, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern time? Sometime next week, I believe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else who self-identifies as anything else or anyone else. I don't want to offend anybody, so I'll just leave it and say good night, and we will see you all tomorrow night.